The room is tense. Cameras click faintly. Rain taps against tall courthouse windows. Pam Bondi stands near the bench, calm, focused. A heavy manila folder rests in her hand. Judge James Boasberg looks down, disinterested. Then, Pam Bondi, firmly, voice steady. Your Honor, I request that this be entered into the record, under Federal Rule 60B, subsection 3. A hush falls over the courtroom. The defense team shifts in their seats. Judge Boasberg raises an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. Judge Boasberg, dry, dismissive. Miss Bondi, we've already reviewed your appeal. There's nothing new here. Pam Bondi, placing the file down. With all due respect, sir, this isn't new. It's just buried. She slides the folder across the table. A bailiff picks it up and hands it to the clerk. The first page, Exhibit C, unredacted internal memo. Murmurs ripple through the crowd. Reporters stop typing and look up. Reporter, whispering, "Wait, is that a memo from Chambers?" Assistant clerk, quietly, "It has Judge Boasberg's signature from 2013. Judge Boasberg scans the document. His hand trembles slightly, but he quickly regains control. Judge Boasberg, controlled but shaken. This is out of context. You'll need more than speculation to reopen this. Pam Bondi, level unwavering. Then let's talk about the deposition changes, the transcript edits, and the clerk who was reassigned 2 days after flagging it. Gasps. A reporter in the back stands up with her phone. Reporter number 2, shocked. Did she just say transcript edits? Judge Boasberg tries to interject but finds no words. Pam looks at the gallery, then back to the bench. Pam Bondi, quiet but firm. This isn't about one decision. This is about whether the courtroom serves truth or protects itself. Silence. Then a loud stir. Phone's out. Whispers. Someone says, "She's right." Judge Boasberg doesn't move. His gavel rests untouched. They told her to sit down, to take the fine, to disappear quietly. But Pam Bondi didn't come to make peace. She came to make noise, and in courtroom 4B that morning, she did title card on screen. Boom. Pam Bondi just destroyed Judge Boasberg. The courtroom erupted. The buzz outside the courtroom hasn't died down. Inside chambers, Judge Boasberg sits flanked by 2 judicial aides. The door opens. Pam Bondi walks in, flanked by a court clerk. There's tension, a silent pressure in the room. Judge Boasberg, not looking up. Miss Bondi, I'd recommend you choose your next steps carefully. Pam Bondi measured. I chose them when I filed the motion. This is just the follow-through. Judge Boasberg, finally meeting her eyes. This isn't television. It's not a crusade. It's federal court. You of all people should know that. Pam. Bondi, unshaken. Then the court should act like it. The judge exhales sharply, annoyed. He gestures to one of the aides, judicial aide. We'll be forwarding a formal warning to the Bar Association. Reckless presentation of sealed materials. Contemptuous tone toward the bench. Pam raises an eyebrow. Pam Bondi, calm but cutting. Contemptuous tone? Or just inconvenient facts? Judge Boasberg, icy. You've already been fined once for that approach. Keep pushing and it won't stop there. Silence. Pam doesn't blink. The threat is loud and clear. She's being warned. Not legally, but institutionally. A reminder. She's not one of them anymore. Int. Courthouse lobby. Minutes later. Pam exits chambers. Leah Holcomb, her former colleague and the one who passed her the first file, rushes up. Leah, worried. How bad was it? Pam Bondi, softly. They're circling the wagons. He made it personal. Leah, quietly. You know they won't stop. Not till they bury this. Pam looks out the tall lobby window at the press still waiting on the steps. Her jaw clenches. Pam Bondi. Then let them try. I've got more than files now. I've got names. Leah, gently, almost pleading. They'll smear you, Pam. You know how this works. Pam Bondi, with steel. I used to help them do it. I know exactly how it works. Into Pam's apartment. That night, Pam sits at her kitchen table. Papers, affidavits, and audio recordings are spread out. She stares at a faded photo on the wall, her old team from her time as Florida's Attorney General. She's not smiling. In it. Her phone buzzes. A blocked number. She answers. Unknown caller. Distorted voice. Back off. Last warning. Click. She exhales slowly, then presses record on her second phone and logs the call. This wasn't courtroom drama anymore. It was a quiet war, one woman against a machine designed to break people like her. And it had just begun. Judge Boasberg sits with a small group of internal advisors and a representative from the court's administrative office. His mood is tight, but not shaken. He's already planning his next move. Judge Boasberg, firmly, I want a gag order filed by noon. Narrow it to case-relevant material, but broad enough to muzzle her public commentary. Advisor. 1. Nervous. Sir, wouldn't that raise red flags? She already went public with some evidence. Judge Boasberg, cold. Then it's time she learns what happens when you embarrass a sitting federal judge. Int. Pam's apartment. Later that night, Pam flips through a thick manila envelope delivered via courier. Inside, a court summons. Motion to issue a gag order. Just reading the first line makes her blood chill. Leah, reading over her shoulder. They're accusing you of compromising judicial neutrality. Are they serious? Pam Bondi, flatly. It's worse. Look at the footnote. They're using the State Bar Ethics Code against me. That's not just about the case, that's about disbarring me. Leah. They're going after your license? Pam, nodding. They're not playing chess, they're playing scorched earth. Int. State Bar Ethics Committee office. 2 days later. A gray fluorescent lit office. 2 officials from the bar review panel speak with each other in low tones. Official. 1. She's making waves. We've had 6 calls from DC in 48 hours. Official number 2. Boasberg called himself. Wants a preliminary inquiry. Wants her quiet. Fast. Official number 1. Sighs. We'll fast track it. Just enough to put her on ice. NT. Pam's apartment. Night. Pam's phone dings again. This time an official letter from the Florida Bar Committee, LEAA, shaking her head. That's 3 fronts now. Gag order, judicial contempt threat, and now ethics charges. Pam Bondi, exhausted but sharp. This isn't about silencing me. It's about making an example of me. She stares out her window at the city lights. Her voice lowers. Pam. They're betting I'll fold, that I'll protect my license, my reputation. But what they don't get, Leah. What? Pam, whispering. They already took those. Now I've got nothing to lose. Int. Federal courthouse, hallway. Next morning. Pam walks in, eyes straight ahead. Lawyers stare, a few whisper. Others avoid eye contact. She knows the look, she's seen it before. Not pity, not empathy, fear. When a system starts to crack, its defenders don't fix it. They protect it harder, and anyone who rattles the frame becomes a target. Pam Bondi sits at the plaintiff's table. Her files are neatly stacked, her posture straight but strained. Across the aisle, Judge Boasberg enters through the side door. The room stills. He takes his seat. The tension is suffocating. Judge Boasberg, coldly. We are here regarding the emergency motion filed by Ms. Bondi and the court's concern regarding her public statements. He looks directly at Pam, then speaks with deliberate disdain. Judge Boasberg. Ms. Bondi, before we begin, I must ask, do you understand the gravity of violating judicial discretion? Pam, calmly. Yes, Your Honor. I also understand the gravity of hiding evidence from a federal record. A low murmur runs through the courtroom. Boasberg leans forward, eyes narrowing. Judge Boasberg. That will be stricken from the record. This is not your press conference, Ms. Bondi. This is a court of law. He turns to the bailiff. Judge Boasberg, play the exhibit, please. On the screen behind them, a video plays. A news clip of Pam's press conference from 3 days ago. Her voice echoes through the courtroom. This court has ignored affidavits, overlooked inconsistencies. This is no longer a question of fairness, it's a question of integrity. The clip ends. Silence. Judge Boasberg, with venom. You've undermined the court's dignity. You've incited doubt in this institution. Accordingly, I am issuing a formal sanction and recommending an emergency review of your bar credentials. Gasp. Pam doesn't flinch. Leah, whispering beside her. That's public. That's on record now. Pam, low voice. He wants to bury me. While everyone's watching, that's the message. Boasberg looks pleased with himself, a small smug curl on his lip. Judge Boasberg, mocking. I expected better from a former attorney general. You've embarrassed yourself. Pam gathers her papers slowly, almost ceremonially. Pam, quietly. No, Your Honor, I've embarrassed you. He slams the gavel. Judge Boasberg, you're in contempt. Bailiff, escort her out. The courtroom erupts into hushed shock as Pam stands. Flashbulbs pop from the gallery. Leah scrambles to keep up as officers flank Pam. She doesn't resist, doesn't protest. She walks with her chin up. Every whistleblower reaches the moment where standing up means standing alone. That was today. And for Pam, walking out wasn't defeat. It was defiance. As the courtroom doors shut behind her, the sound echoes like a warning shot. Rain glides down Pam's windshield. She's parked outside a small, nondescript office building, a friend's law firm where she can think without eyes on her. Leah sits beside her, silent, scrolling her phone anxiously. Pam finally breaks the quiet. Pam, flatly. They want to disbar me. Make me an example. Leah, without looking up. Then maybe it's time to give them a different kind of example. She turns her screen toward Pam. Leah. Remember Denise Kramer? Pam, instantly. The court records clerk who was fired after the Ito Simmons appeal went missing from the docket? Leah nods. She just sent this. She scanned something from her home printer. Look. Pam's eyes scan the document. It's a signed affidavit, time-stamped the year prior. It outlines orders to suppress or delay evidence submissions coming from Judge Boasberg's own clerk, and includes something even more damning. Cases deemed media-sensitive were routed through a second internal approval process, led by the judge's personal liaison. Pam stiffens. Pam. They've been filtering justice. Quietly. Systematically. Leah. And she's not the only one. Another intern came forward too. Said the McNeil file wasn't just delayed, it was doctored. Whole sections removed. Pam leans back, processing. Pam, softly. It's not just judicial bias anymore, and it's manipulation. That makes it federal. Her fingers move fast. She pulls out her phone and starts recording a voice memo describing the contents of Denise's scan. Leah, quietly. What are you doing? Pam. Leaving a digital trail. If something happens to me, this doesn't die with me. This wasn't just a turn. It was an opening. One that could either blow the roof off a corrupt system or bury Pam deeper if she got it wrong. But there was no turning back. The truth was no longer just hers. It was now in the hands of those watching. That night, Pam sent the affidavit to 3 trusted investigative journalists and a legal ethics watchdog. She didn't ask for permission. She just hit send. The hum of a busy newsroom surrounds Pam as she enters. Her face is stoic, her eyes sharp. There's no longer any hint of uncertainty. Today, she's not just defending herself, she's taking control. Journalist number 1, staring at Pam's document. You've got something real here. This isn't just another whistleblower situation. This is systemic. Pam doesn't flinch. The journalist's skeptical glances don't affect her. She hands over the full file. Pam, firm. And it's not just Boasberg. We're talking about a pattern. Years of interference. It's time for someone to do something about it. The journalist looks down, eyes skimming over each page, brow furrowing. Pam waits. The atmosphere is heavy with tension. Journalist #1, slowly, as if weighing the consequences. If this goes public, there's no going back. Are you prepared for the fallout? Pam doesn't hesitate. She already is the fallout. Pam, quiet, determined. It's already happening. What's the point of being quiet, of staying in line? What happens when the system itself is the problem? The guy? Reporter sets the documents aside. The moment stretches out as others in the room pause, sensing the shift. Pam had taken the first steps toward regaining control, not through submission, but by challenging the very structure that had betrayed her. The tide was turning, but the system she'd spent years serving wasn't going to let her go that easily. XT. Tampa. Courthouse. The next morning, the press conference is small, but the media that do show up know this is important. Pam steps up to the podium, her face steady. The cameras click and hum, and for the first time she doesn't feel like a woman cornered. She feels like a force, like justice has a face, and it's hers. Pam, calm but piercing. Yesterday we sent a message. Our courts cannot be a playground for corrupt power. I'm not alone in this fight. I have witnesses, whistleblowers, and a case that's about to crack open. The room grows quiet, journalists leaning in. Pam, continuing. And if Judge Boasberg believes this will blow over, I have news for him. This is just the beginning. The fight wasn't just about her anymore, it was about something bigger, something every single person in that courtroom had been complicit in, whether they knew it or not. Pam wasn't just reclaiming her career. She was reclaiming justice for a system that had lost its way into courtroom. Days later, Pam returns to the courthouse for a motion hearing, eyes locking with Judge Boasberg. His expression is tight, controlled, but there's a flicker of something else, something Pam knows well. He's feeling the heat. Boasberg, with an edge. Ms. Bondi, are you trying to embarrass me? Pam stands tall, unfazed. Pam, calmly, but with fire. I'm not trying to embarrass anyone, Your Honor. I'm just trying to make sure we follow the law. The courtroom murmurs. The judge's face goes red. It was clear now. Boasberg wasn't in control, and that was a dangerous position for a man who thought his power was absolute. Pam had sparked a fire, and the smoke was rising fast. But Boasberg wasn't ready to give up yet. Not without a fight. The air in the courtroom is thick with tension. The walls seem to close in as Pam faces Judge Boasberg once again. His usual calm demeanor has shifted. His hands shake ever so slightly as he adjusts his glasses, but Pam doesn't look away. She's in control now. Judge Boasberg, trying to regain composure. Ms. Bondi, this continues to be an improper motion. You're undermining the integrity of this court. Pam's voice cuts through the room like a blade. Her tone is calm, but there's no mistaking the weight of her words. Pam, unwavering. It's not about undermining the court, Your Honor. It's about uncovering the truth. Something this court has been desperately trying to ignore for too long. The room goes silent. Pam's statement lingers in the air, a challenge thrown directly at the heart of the man who holds the power in this room. Boasberg's jaw tightens. His grip on the gavel seems to grow even stronger, as if he's trying to hold on to something that's slipping away. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Judge Boasberg had been unchallenged for years, a figure of absolute authority. But now, someone had finally dared to call him out. Not with a loud protest or an angry outburst, but with the weight of the truth. And the truth, as always, was more dangerous than any gavel could silence. Into the courtroom hallway. Moments later, Pam steps out of the courtroom, her posture still straight, unshaken. She's not naive. She knows the consequences, but she's done pretending. She knows now that the fight for justice isn't won in silence. It's won with the courage to challenge the system head-on. A few of the lawyers from the back of the room approach her. There's a sense of quiet admiration in their eyes, but no one says anything. They're still too afraid to speak up. Lawyer, nearer one, hesitant. Ms. Bondi, I just want to say, I don't know how you're doing it, but I respect it. Pam gives a small nod, but her focus is on the next step. She's not here for praise. She's here for change. Pam quietly. You don't have to respect it, you just have to stand with it. As Pam walked away, there was a shift. Not just in the courtroom, but in the way people saw her. She wasn't just a former prosecutor. She wasn't just an attorney with a case to win. She had become a symbol of defiance, of someone willing to stand in the face of power and say, I won't back down. XT. Courthouse. Later that day, Pam steps out into the sunlight. It feels like a new day, a day where the weight of the system no longer bears down on her. Her phone buzzes. It's a message from Leah Holcomb, her trusted ally, who had stood by her side since the beginning. Text message. They can't ignore you anymore. The pressure's building. Keep going. Pam takes a breath and smiles. Not because she's won, but because she knows that she's finally made them blink. And the next move is hers. The pressure was mounting and the balance was shifting. Boasberg could feel it. The walls of his empire, built on silence and power, were beginning to crack. And Pam Bondi, she was the hammer. Quiet murmur fills the room. The hum of the overhead lights feels like the calm before a storm. At the center of it all is Judge Roger Corbin, his back stiff and shoulders squared as he faces the board that is now convened to review his case. The room is formal, but the tension is palpable. The panel members sit, their expressions stern. The decision they make today will not only determine Corbin's future, but also set the tone for how justice will unfold in the state. Chairperson, calm but firm. Judge Corbin, you are aware that we have conducted a full review of your recent case history. The documents provided to us, including those filed by Ms. Bondi, raise serious concerns about your conduct. It's clear now that your decisions have been questionable. Corbin shifts in his seat, his face turning pale. He tries to maintain his usual air of authority, but his unease is visible. The walls are closing in. Judge Corbin, defensive. I have always followed the law. These accusations are baseless. Pam Bondi has an agenda. She's trying to discredit me. The chairperson's voice is unwavering. Chairperson, cutting him off. It's not just Ms. Bondi's words, Judge. We have affidavits from your former colleagues, transcripts that have been altered, even court records mysteriously tampered with. The evidence speaks for itself. Pam Bondi's name echoes through the room. To Corbin, it's a reminder of the woman who refused to back down, who fought for justice, who exposed the corruption he thought he could hide. His facade cracks just slightly as he processes the weight of what's happening. NT. Courtroom. Same time, the courtroom is buzzing with the news. Reporters have gathered, eager to hear the announcement. Pam stands in the back, her eyes fixed on the unfolding drama. On the monitor in front of her, the news report is live, showing the meeting at the Florida Judicial Qualifications Commission. Pam watches intently, knowing this is the moment she's been fighting for. The fight was never just about her, it was about everyone who had been silenced. A reporter, VO, can be heard over the feed. Reporter, VO. In a groundbreaking move, the Florida Judicia Pam's phone buzzes again. It's another message from Leah. Text message. This is it. They can't hide anymore, he's done. Pam takes a deep breath. She's waited for this moment, but now that it's here, it feels less like victory and more like vindication. She wasn't just right. She was proven right, and in front of the world. Poetic justice. It wasn't a flashy, explosive moment. There were no confetti cannons, no triumphant cheers. But there was something deeper, a sense of relief, a sense of rightness in the universe. Roger Corbin, the man who once held all the power, was now the one being scrutinized, judged, and ultimately forced to face the consequences of his actions. And all because one woman had the courage to stand against the tide and speak the truth. In Florida. Judicial Qualifications Commission Office. Continuous, the panel is now speaking in hushed tones. Corbin is being informed that his judicial career is officially over. The evidence is overwhelming and the decision has been made. He is stripped of his title, his position, his power. It's the final blow in a fight he never saw coming. Chairperson, sighing as they announce the verdict. Judge Corbin, your conduct has been deemed unacceptable. Effective immediately, you are to resign from the bench. A recommendation for disbarment will be forwarded. The damage you've done to the integrity of the judicial system is irreversible. Corbin doesn't even protest anymore. He can't. The weight of his actions has caught up with him, and no amount of denial can shield him from the inevitable. XT. Florida Judicial Qualifications Commission. Day outside, the media is in a frenzy. Reporters rush to capture the fallout. The story is bigger than just one corrupt judge. It's about a system that is finally being held accountable. Pam Bondi's role in it all cannot be ignored. A reporter, VO, reads the headline on air. Reporter, VO. In a monumental decision, Judge Roger Corbin is removed from his post following allegations of misconduct. The decision comes after former prosecutor Pam Bondi led a tireless campaign for accountability in the judiciary. Pam, standing in front of the courthouse, watches the live broadcast. She doesn't smile. She doesn't need to. The justice she fought for has been delivered. It may not be glamorous, but it's real. In that moment, Pam realized that justice isn't always about the loudest victory. Sometimes it's the quiet, resolute moments, the ones where the world finally acknowledges what was hidden, that make the greatest difference. The crowd outside the courthouse has dissipated, but the ripple effect of the decision is far from over. News outlets buzz with the aftermath. Pam Bondi stands near her car, her mind in a rare moment of quiet reflection. The victory isn't just in the courtroom. It's in the countless conversations happening across the state. The whispers of truth that are now taking root. She's been through the fire, and now she stands tall, her reputation irrevocably changed. But it's not the accolades she's after. It's something deeper. NT. Newsroom. Same time. The news anchors continue to report on the decision, framing it as a landmark moment in Florida's legal history. News anchor. A monumental shift in Florida's judicial system today as Judge Roger Corbin is officially removed from the bench. The decision comes after Pam Bondi's relentless pursuit of truth and justice, which has now been recognized on a national scale. Pam watches the broadcast from her apartment, the image of Corbin's resignation still flashing on the screen. There's no celebration, no confetti, just a quiet sense of satisfaction. For Pam, this wasn't about proving herself to the world. It was about restoring balance to a system that had been warped by those who thought they could control it. The people who had stood by her, Denise, Leah, the anonymous clerk, the stenographer, hadn't just been supporting her. They had been supporting justice. And now, the wheels of accountability had finally begun to turn. Pam looks at the texts on her phone, messages flooding in from colleagues, old friends, and even people she'd never met. Most are words of congratulations, but there's one that catches her eye. A message from Leah. Text. Message. We did it. You did it. Pam exhales, feeling the weight of it all. This victory, small in the grand scheme of things, had shifted something massive in her. She wasn't just a cog in the system anymore. She was the force that challenged it, and the outcome wasn't just her success. It was a message to anyone who had been silenced, who feared speaking out. XT. Beach day the next morning. Pam walks along the beach in Clearwater, the sand cool beneath her feet. The sun is just beginning to rise, painting the sky with soft hues of orange and pink. There's a moment of peace, of stillness, as she takes in the view. She sits on the sand, breathing deeply, finally allowing herself to acknowledge the toll the battle has taken, the stress, the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt. But she also feels something else now, something she hadn't allowed herself to feel before, a sense of closure. As she sat there watching the waves crash gently onto the shore, Pam understood. something profound about justice. It doesn't always come in the form of grand gestures or public adulation. Sometimes it's the quiet restoration of order. It's the knowledge that truth, when allowed to speak, will eventually be heard. Her phone buzzes again. It's a message from Denise. She reads it silently. Text message. The courthouse is a different place now. You made sure of that. Pam smiles, softly to herself. The weight of the past months feels a little lighter now. She's not just walking away from this battle as a victor. She's walking away with her integrity intact, her dignity restored, and with a deeper understanding of what it means to fight for something larger than herself. Int. Pam's apartment. Night later. That evening, Pam sits at her kitchen table, surrounded by case files and documents, reminders of everything she's fought for. But now, for the first time in months, there's a peace in her heart. Her fight wasn't for revenge, nor was it for recognition. It was about proving that the truth matters, even in a system that often works to bury it. A soft knock at the door breaks her moment of solitude. She opens it to find Leah standing there, a bottle of wine in hand. Leah, grinning. I thought you might need a drink after all of this. Pam laughs softly, stepping aside to let her in. Pam, I think I've earned it. As Leah pours the wine, Pam reflects on the journey. The fight, the sacrifices, the people who had supported her. This wasn't the end. It was just a new chapter. And as they clink glasses, Pam knows that the true victory isn't just in what she's won, but in what she's left behind. A reminder to all that no one is ever truly alone in the fight for justice. The sun dips below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the ocean. Pam stands alone on the shore, her toes digging into the damp sand. The air is heavy with the salt of the sea, and the world around her feels still, quiet, almost serene. This moment, however, isn't about serenity. It's about understanding. Understanding the cost of standing up when the odds are stacked against you. The weight of confronting corruption, and the resilience required to face the unknown. It's about realizing the power of one voice, no matter how small it may seem in the vastness of the world. It's easy to believe that justice is something that happens in grand gestures, courtrooms, speeches, legal victories. But what Pam learned, what she had to learn the hard way, was that true justice doesn't come from the system itself. It comes from the people who refuse to be silent. It comes from the ones who choose to speak, to act, and to stand firm in the face of injustice, even when doing so feels impossible. Pam watches the waves crash against the rocks, feeling the rhythm of their movement, the force they carry. There's a pattern in the chaos, a sense of purpose in the unpredictable flow. The fight for justice is like that. Sometimes it feels like everything is against you, like every force is pulling you down. But even in those moments, there's an undeniable force that keeps you moving forward. A force that can't be explained but is felt in every decision, every step. Pam, VO. You don't change the system. You can't. But you can change the course of the battle. You can make the decision to fight for what's right, to demand accountability. And sometimes, that's enough to create a ripple that becomes a wave. As Pam stares out at the water, she thinks of those who had stood with her. Leah, Denise, the anonymous sources who risked everything to speak the truth. They had made a choice just as she had. They had chosen to stand against the tide, to expose what others wanted buried. And together they had created a force that was impossible to ignore. Because truth, when spoken with courage, has a way of finding its path. It doesn't matter how many walls you put up, how much you try to bury it. Eventually it rises. And when it does, the world is forced to listen. Pam. The world tells you to back down. They tell you to keep quiet, to accept what you can't change. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you refuse to let the truth stay buried, even when the cost is high? You might lose some things along the way, but in the end, you walk away knowing you stood for something bigger than yourself. And that is worth it. As Pam steps off the sand and onto the path that leads back into the world, she knows that this isn't the end. It's just one chapter. In a long story of accountability, of standing up to power when it needs to be challenged. Let this be a reminder then. Justice is never about comfort. It's never about ease. It's about courage, persistence, and the willingness to face the storm. And if you find yourself standing alone, remember, you are never truly alone. There will always be others, waiting for the courage to rise with you. The camera lingers on the horizon one last time, the fading light of the sunset blending with the darkening sky. A moment of silence follows, and that, in the end, is what makes all the difference. Pam walks away from the beach, knowing that her fight for justice has ignited a ripple that will forever change the course of the battle. If you believe in standing up for what's right, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the fight for truth and accountability never ends.